So this talk is about the XWidgets and specifically the WebKit part of XWidgets that was recently merged into Emacs. So I'm calling it a feature preview. Introduction. Hi. So the very first thing is this presentation is available here. It's an org mode file in this URL. I've licensed it under the Creative Commons license 2.0. Feel free, play with it, do whatever you want, as long as the license allows it. So, who am I? My name is Aaron Conole. I'm a software developer at Red Hat, and I've been using Emacs since 2001, although I was using Lucid Emacs, so sorry. But I've converted, so you can forgive me. I want to give some thanks first to the Emacs community. They make an awesome editor. They're nice people. It's really great. If you don't hang out on the Emacs IRC channel, I definitely suggest getting on there. Everyone that works on, or a lot of people that work on development end up being on there. You can ask a lot of great questions, even off-topic questions too. That's Second, I want to thank thoughtbot. They are hosting this. They provide food. They provide a space to do these talks. So thanks very much. And also I want to thank Red Hat because they actually let me spend some time at work working on this presentation, and they encouraged me to come here. Although any opinions I express are my own and not Red Hat's. I want to get that out of the way too. So. All right, so a bit of background. What the heck is XWidgets? So XWidgets allows us to embed certain GTK widgets into an Emacs buffer. And among the widgets that we really care about happen to be WebKit. And it was developed by Joaquim Verona, and it's been going on for a couple of years, and it was recently merged mainline, I think January of this year. So it's relatively young as far as Emacs features go.
Aaron, do you want us to wait till the end and ask questions, or do you want to do it interactively?
You can ask questions. Yeah.
Does the use of GTK widgets mean that that it only runs on platforms that support GTK?
Yes. However, I will add that GTK runs on Windows, Mac, Linux. So for the big three that people would use Emacs on, it's there. I can't guarantee it's going to work on like Minix or something, but
Okay, cool.
yeah. What is WebKit? Hopefully people do know what WebKit is, but just as a little reminder, it was a fork of KHTML and KJS. I think it was originally forked by Apple, but Apple and Google mostly are the contributors for it. It powers Chrome, Safari, Chromium, Opera. So many browsers that people make are backed by WebKit. So it's quite well tested. And for our purposes, it's exported to GTK, which is really the reason we're talking. So, and why do we want this in Emacs? So, what, because it's cool is not a good enough reason? I mean, but more realistically, for those of us that use GNUs or other email readers in in Emacs, some folks really like HTML emails. I happen to not really like them that much, but I gather that there's a subset of folks that's like non-zero that use an Emacs mail reader but really want HTML emails. So they've had to suffer with W3M. Maybe they don't have to do that any longer. They can get a real browser with JavaScript and all that from their email. Hooray. Moreover, when integration gets better, my guess is I just am not smart enough to see the use that WebKit really will take on. Like I said, it's very young. But I gather that some very creative, smart visionary knows exactly what to do with WebKit in Emacs and will do something really great with it, and it will be so astonishing, our minds will be blown. Just from the API, you can grab elements out of WebKit, out of the WebKit DOM that it rendered and generated through JavaScript. There's some pretty cool Emacs Lisp you can write around it, so and that can always be extended. Remember, it's a free open project, so anyone can contribute.
Can you give examples of what those Elisp interactions would be?
Oh, grabbing the DOM elements is not good enough?
Well,
Yeah, you can do that. So I don't remember the API off the top of my head, but it's all in an XWidgets.el file under the Lisp directory in the Emacs page, and there's a few there. It can definitely grow. One that was lacking for me, I'll digress a little bit, one that I really would have liked for one of the snippets that I'm going to show is a way to actually just start a WebKit session with the contents of a buffer. So I worked around that by creating a temporary file and pointing WebKit at the temp file, but it would have been really nice if that were just wrapped up into an API, and maybe I'll clean it up and make it pretty and super cool and submit it, you know, but.
Now the C, I would imagine that WebKit itself is C code. Would that be true?
Yeah. XWidgets is partly implemented in C, yep, and partly in Emacs Lisp.
Okay.
So.
which version are we talking about?
That's a good question. I'll get to that. Which version of WebKit or which version of Emacs? I'll get to that. Remember, I said preview. So, final point. I mean, who doesn't really want to watch YouTube videos in Emacs? That's just. I pine for the day we can. Duh.
I'm too busy playing games.
All right, so now to answer your question, it's not released yet, meaning the specific version of Emacs that will carry this stuff is not actually released. So, here be dragons. I'm calling it an early preview. I'm sure that that Joaquim, who contributed it, would not necessarily call it that, and I'm sure a lot of the other Emacs folks wouldn't really call it preview. Because it is quite stable, actually. I call it preview from a holistic sense, right? If I still call out to a browser in Emacs, it defaults to just opening whatever browser I have configured. And if I want to view like HTML content and all that, it's not really fully integrated with all the different features that Emacs has. Even like GNU's, the GNU's reader that I use, I had to write Elisp to get it to call out to WebKit. So I'm calling it a preview. They probably would call it more of like a stable feature that could integrate with other features. But that aside, it's still an unreleased version of Emacs, and it's still that's still being developed. So you can, and I will guarantee you will run into strange issues. It's called bleeding edge for a reason, you know.
When you say it's a preview, will you get XWidgets if you build the develop sources?
Yes, if you build it from scratch and you give it the magic incantation, you will get XWidgets.
It's default.
Is it default?
25.1.
Well, 25.1's not released yet.
Well, it will be in June for beta.
So, all right, compiling Emacs. It's pretty simple. Get the sources, get the dependencies, build it. I don't know what else, and try it out. So step one, this part's simple. Make a Git directory somewhere and clone Emacs into that Git directory. It looks like it got cut off, but if you download the sources to this, then you'll get the nice, pretty code. Sorry about that. Step two, so this part depends on which system you're running, because this is getting the dependencies. So I've done it for Fedora. I think what I wrote in here works for Ubuntu. I have not tested it. I had this ambition that I was going to find someone that had like OS X, and I would try and make it work on OS X and show pretty things. I did not get that time, and good luck. Sorry. So for Fedora, I mean, it's really only this simple giant wall of text. So just type that in, and you're good to go. Moreover, like, this is documented in places. The RPM actually has a spec file associated with it that tells exactly what it needs. So there are ways of finding out what dependencies and packages you need to get. I kind of put it right here, and this is for Fedora 23 because I'm using the sweet DNF utility. So if you're using an older version, it'll be yum. But why are you using an older version? You have a new one. Quickly, Ubuntu, I think it's this little set of text here, but I didn't test it, so maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. If it doesn't, don't flame me, please, but you can submit. I said it's Creative Commons. I gave you the sources. Go ahead and submit a patch. I'll accept it, you know, if it works.
Why is it such a difference between a Debian-based system that uses apt versus the Red Hat? I mean, the one you showed for DNF was huge.
Really simple. I actually don't know DNF very well. I only recently switched to Fedora, so there's probably a way to do all of this stuff with a single like one-liner, but I'm not smart enough to know it, and I didn't have enough time to research it. So I went with the tried and true, here are all the packages, just install them.
So what you're saying is
That will give you everything.
This will give you everything, yes. This is guaranteed to give you everything you need, including, even though it's cut off down here, the WebKit dependencies. So, whereas this one you see, I have to manually add them after the fact. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
It just gives you the tool chain, it doesn't give you much beyond.
Yeah, so,
They did the dependencies of Emacs 24, but there'll be all sorts of optional.
yeah. And that may not work, like you may need to install additional packages. If you do, please submit a patch. I will use it. I promise. Then build it. It's not too difficult. Just go in, run the autogen script, run the configure with all of these magic switches, make bootstrap. That's what really gives us our initial Emacs build. You don't have to do a make check. However, remember you're running bleeding edge. So if you don't do a make check, if you choose to eschew that step, then when you run it and it fails, and oops, I was just on the wrong commit message or the wrong commit ID, and one commit later has solved this, and it would have been found out with a make check, sorry. So I like to do this. It's a sanity step. It does add some time to the build, but it's not too bad. So, and then finally make install. Now you'll notice right here, I'll highlight it. I put Emacs into a prefix area somewhere, into a safe space. Please don't flame me if you blow away your system's Emacs and then all of a sudden things stop working and you have problems. Don't do that. You know, put it in a prefix and then your life will be better, I think. So, finally, you know, drink some coffee or beer or tea or, you know, do some yoga. Just don't use Vim because that's not a good idea, I think. I'm just kidding. You can use Vim if you really want, but I can't help you with that. Yeah, you've come to the wrong group.
There might be bi-tutorial people around.
So, and then after that, just set up your path and run Emacs. And you get Emacs with XWidgets included. That's pretty cool. So now what, right? Because Emacs is just going to come up and look like it always does, Emacs. So what changed? Well, you actually can run XWidget+WebKit browse URL, and it will pop up a WebKit widget in a new buffer, and you'll get something there, and that's all I'll promise. You will be disappointed sometimes, though, because it doesn't have all the fancy amenities that regular browsers have, like inserting http://. You need to make sure you type that. Otherwise, you get a big wall of white. Or HTTPS, really, is what you should be using.
Can you demo with any of this that you're...
We'll get there, yep. I don't just sell empty promises and snake oil. Yeah, so going to google.com, not really going to be great. Going to https://www.google.com probably is going to feel a bit better. It's still not going to feel like you're using a real browser because it's still, like I said, my definition of preview. If you really want to use XWidgets for all its power and everything, you really have to write Elisp. There's just nothing that exists right now. No one has taken advantage of it because, like I said, it was only recently merged. So if you want to use it for cool stuff, you have to write the cool stuff. So you be the visionary. That's my challenge. On the plus side, though, sometimes people really get upset because they can't use Emacs key bindings in their browser. Some of them actually work in here. So you can actually scroll through with your Control-V and Meta-V, or if you've rebound scroll up and down, you can use those keys. So that's pretty cool. They have some other mode-specific keybinds, G, R, Control-M, those kind of things. But they have also, anywhere they can interact and use the standard Emacs keybinds, they do. So that's pretty neat. That means it's sometimes I'll hit Control-C to start a prefix or something, or Control-A or Control-E in a browser window, and all of a sudden, I don't know what happened, and the browser is broken, and I have to shut everything down and start it over again. That's bad times for me. Now I don't have to do that anymore, so that's pretty cool. And this is an actual screenshot of a session. I Googled for something cool, and it showed me something cool. So
That's pretty good.
kind of neat, yeah.
Does it store its cookies in a special directory with a prefix?
There is, I believe, a WebKit standard directory that stores cookies, but I could be totally wrong. I don't really. I'm not a browser kind of guy. I spend almost all of my time. I read my email in Emacs, right? What am I going to use a browser for, really? So, but yeah, there's probably something, and if not, you can probably make something to do that. I'm sure you could. All right, so I'm going to go into a live demo. I hope it works, and I'm going to show you. Well, I'm not going to show you YouTube viewing because it crashed for me. But I have this little bit of code here that I actually got a working HTML email out of GNU's using WebKit. So we'll cover that. We'll cover some browsing.
When you crash, do you crash Emacs or do you crash the WebKit?
So going back to a previous question, it was asked whether WebKit was C or Emacs Lisp, and I said it's a little bit of both. So sometimes when WebKit crashes, Emacs crashes. That's not a fun time. Sorry. So, all right, we'll open up a window here, and Emacs XWidgets bin Emacs. Okay, let's see if I remember I'll put it in the thing right here. It's gonna load up all sorts of junk. Sorry if
Yeah.
maybe that's a little too big. Maybe that's good enough. Okay, so let's just say XWidget WebKit. We'll say browse URL. Google.com? People okay with that?
Yeah.
Actually, maybe what is it? Emacs Boston? Is that it? .org? Fingers crossed.
What's the worst that could go wrong?
My evaluate is not working. Okay, we'll do it the old-fashioned way. In the mini buffer, I'm actually doing the same thing, and it will prompt me for the WebKit URL. Is it HTTPS support?
No, not really.
Okay.
Yeah, go with that. It might alter
Yep.
its configuration.
So there you go, Emacs Boston. Hey, we're seeing it. You know, we can scroll down and scroll up. Control V, Meta V in my thing. We'll click on. Let's see if a URL works. Yeah, see, we can click, we can do things. It's like 1993 all over again. So it's pretty great.
Information super high.
Yeah. So let's look for something. We'll find something on here, or not.
If you type Control S, does it do anything?
Control M was supposed to be the keybind to do this, but again, see bleeding edge from master. I updated it today, and now it's broken. So sorry, I can't search.
So ideally, this should be all keyboard driven.
It could be, yeah, I
You
guess.
can pump in events all over the place with it.
Yeah, I mean, you can edit text boxes, but obviously, if I just click into that and actually, oh, maybe it, yeah. See, so notice Emacs captures every keystroke that I make. So even though I have this text area selected, it's not actually gonna let me type into it, and that's what Control M was bound to. Let me see. XWidgets+WebKit. There's like a insert string, and here I can say
That's really.
Harry, and there, now it pops in there. Hooray! So it's only like 7 extra steps to actually input text.
How do you insert a new line?
I don't know. Good luck. That's. This isn't good enough for you? You need new lines now too? Right. Aw. No more buttered scones for me. Okay. Let's see if.
We have an experimental result here.
Well, I was just saying that when it rendered wrongly, it wasn't Emacs WebKit's fault. The same thing happens in any project.
Oh, okay. So clearly we've actually found a bug in the Emacs Boston website. Go WebKit. You know, that's.
Well,
So-
to be fair, that's GitHub's website. So
Yeah, that's true.
That's not.
Oh, hey, now text entry worked again. I can press buttons and it, you know, we can say pull request. So now I wish there was a button to actually search, because after that I can't do anything. There must be like a submit somewhere. When I did it with Google, there's a little like question or magnifying glass, so I can click on that and then it will search. I don't know. There must be a way to tell it to search. I'm not smart enough. Sorry.
Oh, some kind of hook to submit the form.
Maybe. I mean, you have access to the DOM, so there's probably a way to like get it and tell XWidgets, hey, generate this event, and it will go do it. That's even more steps, but I'm sure some Elisp hacker has figured it out. Wow, you're an idiot. Why don't you just write these 50 lines of Elisp and you can submit? Sorry, publish that code and then I'll use it. That's pretty simple. Okay, so let's quit out of this. Let's hope that this part works, because it is kind of cool. So this is my, I'll make this bigger. Or I won't make it any bigger, because see bleeding edge. So some things are broken, sorry.
Is this master or the?
This is master.
Okay, so it's not the Emacs 25 branch.
It's not the Emacs 25 branch, although XWidgets is on the Emacs 25 branch. So
Right.
that being said, I don't know if all of the fixes that are on master have been backported to Emacs 25. I'm not actually familiar with how they do their, like, oh, I fixed something on master, but it could be fixed on
They
25.
do
And
if it's a showstopper bug, we push it back.
okay, so yeah, so I use master because I'm lazy and I don't check out branches, but and I don't miss not being able to enlarge this text. Sorry. That being said, so most of this code here, this XW GNU's article HTML that I have here, like I said, I put it up on a gist on GitHub, so you can see it. The real big stuff is right here. So this is the regular GNU's HTML renderer code, and all I did was add these 3 lines. It's a very naive implementation. Please don't criticize me based on that. I can do other things, I promise. But we can evaluate. Cool. So evaluating is working again. That's nice. We'll evaluate this. We'll evaluate this. Okay. Now I'll run GNUs. Yeah, continue. Okay, there's an autosave file.
So is the gist here that if you detect a message that is rendered in HTML or expressed in HTML, you'll invoke that code?
If it has an HTML MIME part, yes, that code will be invoked.
Cool.
So I found one that was pretty cool earlier. So I'll just search WGBH because I like WGBH, and they had a pretty cool, like it rendered pretty well. So I'll use that one, and maybe it'll render well again. Although the luck I'm having with this demo, maybe it won't. So you never know what you're getting. Maybe my mail server will die too. That would be pretty cool. Or it will just take a long time. Any questions while this is going on? Any tea or beer you want to drink or do some yoga?
What is going on?
I'm searching my mail for something with HTML in it, and it's apparently taking a very long time to come back. So, yeah, IMAP is doing something. My Emacs is probably dead now. Sorry. This is like I said, don't replace your running Emacs with your stable working Emacs with whatever's on master, because that will be not what you want to see.
No guts, no glory.
All right, so moment of truth. Oh, look at that. So it worked. So here it is. HTML, GNUs. Pretty sweet, All right. So only a lot of time waiting, but I can scroll through it and I can see all about the secret history of ISIS and some other things. High school quiz show championship is super important to read, I think. So, yeah. We can try and go to YouTube and watch a video. It didn't work for me last time, but I'll try it. Unless anyone has any questions at this point.
Do you have a Gmail account?
I don't like Gmail, actually.
Kind of why I think. Well,
Well, that was the question.
yeah.
So I have a strange answer. I think I do, but I don't. If I do, I don't use it. So
So I guess the link's gonna go to your other browser?
no, they're gonna stay right here. I think, or do nothing, maybe. I'm gonna be honest. I wrote that like maybe 10 minutes. So sorry if it doesn't work 100%. And I just tried to use the arrow keys to move. Big mistake. It doesn't actually. It kind of does something, but what you see is it actually scrolls the widget around the buffer. You're not actually scrolling in the browser. You're scrolling the buffer. So and then you see this handy little A adjusts the widget size. XWidgets doesn't actually realize that you've changed the size of Emacs, so I'll move this back in frame, and I'll give this a resize, and notice it's not actually fitting anymore. But they give you a handy little hint. A adjusts the widget size, so you can make it, you know, lengthy all over again. So you know, it's a little like using Mosaic, or a little like just kind of playing with stuff. So, but it's fun, and you know, you can do stuff.
Have you played with the DOM at all?
I haven't. Nope. But you could. I welcome those results, actually. I want to see someone do something really cool with XWidgets. I know reading HTML email is not the cool thing you can do with this. I did it because it's the first thing that popped into my head, and I'm a simple person. But someone's going to figure out something radical, and I want to see that.
Just to drive that point home, we don't have a speaker lined up for next month, so
Yeah, there's
blow
plenty
some
of...
lines, man. Get on it.
So I'd just like to review what went on here. This, what we're looking at now was a process through that code that you showed where you added those 3 lines.
Yes.
So it took, what, an HTML email
Yes.
and did what to it again?
What it did was, so there's a whole thing called message handling framework in Emacs that's linked up with GNU's. And the message handling framework will actually split out the message into all the different MIME parts. And we can register a handler for the HTML MIME part. So what I did was say, okay, for that handler, call my rendering function. And my rendering function saves it off to this file here in /temp. Test.html with a crazy name, because that's what make temp file does in Elisp. And here it all is. Here's all that stuff. And you know, it's probably calling out to Google and doing all sorts of other great WebKit-y things, or HTML-y things. And WebKit's happily just chugging along and rendering it all.
So you put it in the temp file and then open that file with...
With WebKit. Yep, I'll go back to the code. So right here, I say make a temp file and give it this handy little prefix. Then I say write the data from that narrowed buffer. It actually narrows a buffer into that MIME part. And then you get that buffer, so you can say the min point and max point, and read that out. Say, okay, write it into this file, and then I say, create a new WebKit session with, you know, the file protocol and the file name, and that's pretty much it. Someone, and maybe even me, could wrap something similar to this in a handy XWidgets+WebKit API that would let prospective future developers just call this with buffer contents, and that would be okay by me.
Would there be any opportunity to take advantage of something like Firefox and utilize some of the things that they've developed in their GTK version and use that instead?
That's a good question.
Some of their capability to get to the same file.
Yeah, it's a good question. So the question was, can we take advantage of like Firefox GTK widgets, or you know, possibly any other GTK widgets? So the short answer is it's certainly possible. It's software. The kind of more involved answer is every widget has custom C code around it. And in order for you to get access to that widget, you have to write the C code to instantiate that widget and plug it into the XWidgets framework and all that. And then you have to write the Elisp API that will call into that widget. So you can't just, I think, spawn an arbitrary. You probably could spawn an arbitrary XWidget, but it's not going to be very useful. But you could probably do a minor amount of hacking at Emacs internals, and you could get a Firefox widget, sure. Don't, by the way, take that as gospel. I haven't really spent too much time looking at the XWidgets code, so I know there is some C for it. I'm assuming that they have custom handling code to actually instantiate these widgets. They may not. There may be a way to do it without needing to write C bindings, and if so, great. I hope to see more widgets then. That would be kind of neat. Yeah. Any other questions or?
Well, I have a question that I'll kind of throw out to the general audience. I suspect that they may have the answer. Has anybody got GTK running on Mac OS X and can talk to that experience so that those of us who do run Mac OS X could consider?
I've tried and not gotten it to work yet, so.
I seem to remember running it through XWidgets+.
Yeah.
Years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
I feel like I could run it in OS 10 years ago, and it worked okay, but that could be some kind of false memory or hallucination.
Mhm.
Not
Stockholm syndrome?
No, I think that report's kind of that. The GTK2 had been ported to Aqua at some point, but I don't think it continued to work.
Okay, well, I could be.
But it works fine in their X implementation.
Okay.
Cool. Yeah, so to answer your question, people have gotten it to work on Mac OS X, I guess. So yeah, good news for you.
Yeah.
You have no excuses not to contribute. Any,
Can you say how you came to this?
how I came to,
I mean, did you participate in writing any of this code, or?
no. So I actually had recently started coming to these Emacs meetups, and I had found a neat set of thought experiments where people were using Qt to like generate WebKit images and save that off to an image file and then display them. So I thought, oh, that's really cool. We could do that. You could do that in Emacs and just display WebKit. And I searched the Googles, and it came back with, oh, there's actually already a project that does all of that stuff you wanted to do and a little cleaner. So that's how I came to this. And then Harry, our wonderful host, asked me if I would do a talk on it. So then I gave myself a little crash course in some of the XWidgets Lisp. So.
This is very nice. This is excellent.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I think there's a lot of potential here, not just with WebKit, but there's probably other widgets that are really neat to have access to. Someone might write an Emacs widget, and then that would be really crazy because you could put Emacs in Emacs, and who knows what's going to happen then.
Doing that. Exposing Emacs as a GTK object and then instantiating within Emacs.
Yeah, because I mean, if you don't have enough Emacs, you should just put more inside it. That's, I don't know how to.
I'm just picturing somebody staggering out of that. It's eternity in there.
Yeah.
It's then instantiating the instantiation within a numbered instantiation.
Sure.
Whoa.
Yeah. So there's like a great Russian nesting doll paradox kind of thing there. But yeah, there's all sorts of cool X widgets or all sorts of cool GTK widgets, and it would be really cool, I think, to find out which ones could embed and do neat things with them. I think, even with WebKit, there's a lot of stuff we could do. Every time you call it to a browser, it would be nice to just have it render right there in good old Emacs. And
One of
you can see
the
it.
obvious to me things is I see Emacs having, instead of tabs, each buffer having rendering URL, so that essentially you get Chrome functionality inside Emacs. And the other thing that struck me was that goes back to something Steve Yegi said a long time ago, which was that eventually he saw either Emacs subsuming the browser, bang, or the browser subsuming Emacs, or which we just talked about.
yeah, actually, I think so. To that point, there are editors that are written in like JavaScript and HTML and CSS and all that, and they ship with just a stripped down WebKit instance. I think Microsoft's Visual Studio, there's like a lightweight version of it that runs on Linux, and I believe that is just JavaScript, HTML, and a WebKit wrapper. So yeah, I think it goes kind of both ways, and lots of people say lots of things that kind of end up coming true anyway. Everything becomes a Lisp, and so yeah, Sure.
Cool.
So when you display an X widget, it's rendered within Emacs.
Well, I'll say it's rendered within X, and Emacs is telling X to render it, but I don't know the mechanics that are going on. I'll say that.
Display engine just passing control of the rendering of that portion of the buffer to G2K. It has no involvement and it doesn't know what it's doing.
Right.
It's a picture as far as it's concerned.
Right.
In terms of like Windows though, if Emacs is running within a window, but the X widget, is that
Yeah,
another?
It's attached
Emacs
to
will
it.
present it within a buffer. You know, so it's a buffer object that you can scroll through. But the content is essentially fairly opaque unless you
Right.
do some serious editing with Elisp to get it and pick it apart.
So
Yeah.
that's why we couldn't type in box.
That's why we can't type in text boxes without having special Elisp
There's actually
functions.
been a lot of talk to try and fix that particular problem.
Yeah.
Everybody's had the same issue. I mean, and Conqueror's got the same problem, which uses the Firefox front end with an Emacs-like
Hmm.
user input. But they have the same problem. You get to a text box and you either have to exit out and do it as a separate entry or
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, as far as Emacs is concerned, this object, this XWidget object, it's exactly that. It's just some opaque black box. It doesn't know about it, really, apart from here's the call to make to get X to render it, and here's some of the hooks that that Emacs can access. Other than that, nothing. It doesn't know anything about it. It has no like real deep integrated knowledge of that object.
But you can click on links.
You can click on links, of course, yep, because X will render it and it will present a little thing there that is a widget itself that has sub-widgets, and X will gladly accept that input.
Now, in one of your early slides where you introduced the XWidgets, you
Mhm.
referred to two K things. There was KHTML and then another.
And KJS.
KJS. Does the K refer to Conqueror?
It refers to KDE, actually. So originally,
Okay.
WebKit actually comes out of KDE, and Apple saw that there was great work done there, and there was great potential to turn it into something for them. So they went with it, and we have WebKit. Huh?
and it had a license where they could steal it.
Yes, it had.
Technically, they had a license that we're stealing it wasn't an option. Just taking it was.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, we could talk about licenses all day, but I work for Red Hat. Where do you think I fall?
Could you try loading a massive web page and then killing the buffer and see how the memory footprint changes?
So the question is, can I try loading a very large web page and see if it crashes,
No.
or see how the memory footprint changes?
Like kill the buffer and see if it frees it.
Recovering the
Yeah.
space.
If you run like top.
I mean, I can run top and view the RSS and VSS. Those are really like far removed. There may be objects that get allocated because I instantiate this that are part of like a memory pool, and they don't disappear. I can do that experiment, but I wouldn't be comfortable inferring specific results from it, other than it's kind of neat. So, okay, we'll do it. I'm just going to let it run right here, and we'll say XWidgets+WebKit browse URL, and what do you think is a pretty big web page? YouTube?
Anyone on Medium?
Which I'm getting lots of New York Times. What is it? NY Times.
Yeah.
Shows how much I go there. So let's see. So we have a decent sized Emacs. That's the line, in case you can't see it. I think it's like 3 gig or something. Huge. So that's pretty big. I'll quit the buffer. Did it go down at all? I don't really see it changing. That's the virtual size. I didn't track the resident size, but I feel like it's not going to change much. Maybe it will.
Not that big page.
Yeah, that may not be a big enough page either.
File or something. Right. But who knows what would happen if you tried to open a video file on this.
Yep. Well, okay. Let's see if I can crash this again. YouTube.com. So that we can all, watch a YouTube video. You want to watch some John Oliver? Oh, sorry, an error occurred. So I haven't and there it crashes. So I haven't really figured out how to get past that part yet, mostly because I haven't really spent a lot of time on it. But if you figure out how to get past that, that would be really cool, because then I can just switch buffers back and forth really quickly, and I can spend time reading email at home and then switching over to like YouTube and all that, and I can never have to leave Emacs, and I could stick on my keyboard, and that would be great.
Seems like we want to copy what the likes of Chromium does and actually have it in a different process, but rendering if it crashes. I don't know. I don't know how to
That'd
do
be
that.
a complete re-architecture of Emacs and Chromium.
So
Well, Chromium actually starts with some processes, and they have
So they render
Yeah.
in the parent?
no, they render in the child,
right.
point it back
I was
to
just
the
wondering if we
parent.
could do the same.
So you might be able to do the same. The question was, could we spawn a different process for each widget? Maybe. If you can figure out how to do that, it's free software, and not in the $0 sense, but in the anyone can contribute and you all have freedoms. So you can feel free to write some patches and test them out. Any other questions?
I'd just like to point out that I'm really glad that we were like, hey, that's really cool. How can we break it? Yeah.
Yeah.
And we did.
It's
Yeah.
it's
Go on. You put our minds to it.
Yeah, so again, like I said, I'm running off master. It's pretty recently merged to like mainline Emacs. So there's going to be, I'm not going to say it's unstable. It's certainly quite stable if you're browsing, text and all that. When you start to call out to lots of other types of widgets and, like try and invoke all these different sub-libraries and all that, maybe it works, maybe it doesn't, and you might have better success than I do. You might not have such a cluttered Emacs file that messes with the state of the Lisp interpreter and lets it just run. It's possible. So.
Thank you so much. That was awesome.
Yes.